So I'm going to talk today about what it's like to work in personal fitness. What are the pros and cons of being a personal trainer and working with people one-on-one? What are some of the options that you will have in the fitness field? Everybody here is an exercise science major. Is that correct? So I'm going to assume that you want to do something that has to do with exercise. I know there are a lot of different options. What I do, I own this company. I own Basics and Beyond Fitness and Nutrition. It's a company in Nashville, Tennessee, and we do primarily one-on-one personal fitness training and nutrition coaching with people. We do it in lots of different places. I've been at this since 1993, and looking around, I realized that that is before most of you were born. I am very old. I got into fitness myself as a young person in middle school and high school. I started playing basketball. And it turns out I'm terrible at basketball. But it got me working out 5 days a week, and I kind of liked how that felt. And girls started noticing me, and I liked how that felt too. When I was a senior in high school, I started lifting weights because I was missing a semester of gym. They told me I was missing a semester of gym class, and I was not going to graduate. So I had a study hall period that was empty, and they just threw me in this little closet that had a pile of dumbbells in it. And there's like, all right, there's your gym class. So I did that every day with another kid who was in the same boat. And we didn't know what we were doing, but I knew that I liked how it felt. And so as I went into college, I started training more and learning more and educating myself. And pretty soon I got hired at a gym in Nashville that no longer exists as a staff person, and I started developing my teaching chops. And it turns out I'm a pretty good teacher. So pretty soon I didn't need to be an employee anymore. There was a demand for my time and my expertise and my help, so I had my own personal training business. And as my schedule got more full and there were more people who wanted my help than I had hours in a day, I hired my first assistant, and it just snowballed from there. So now I've got a great team of fitness trainers and physical therapists at Basics and Beyond Fitness and Nutrition, and we operate out of 5 different locations. And it's really gratifying work, I have to say. I know that the folks in this room, you've got a varied background. You take a lot of different classes, a lot of academia. Some people may want to get into athletic training. Some people might want to get into PT or OT. There's a lot of different options. I want to talk about what it's like to work one-on-one with people and really coach somebody through becoming their best self, which is really what we're here to do, you know? People may approach you as a trainer with aspirations of being an underwear model, but what we're really about is taking you from where you are now and trying to get a little bit better when it comes to physical fitness, nutrition and lifestyle habits, and those kinds of things. So it's a very people-oriented business. If you are considering getting into the personal training field, here are some of the characteristics that will define a good personal trainer. A good personal trainer is driven primarily by wanting to help people and really become their best, as I said. If you are in the mindset of, I just want to get a job for a while until I figure out what I want to do, don't be in a people business. Pick something else. Because personal training has personal right in the name, right? It's a people business. If you are going to be good at this, you need to be properly educated and skilled at what you do. There are a lot of terrible trainers out there, and I am sad to say. I am one of the guys who used to go around the country and do education workshops for personal fitness trainers and their continuing education, and I can say with confidence, most personal trainers are terrible. And I hate to say it, but that is the truth. There's a lot of lack of education and skill in how to actually teach exercise. And I'm going to talk about that and how important that is a little bit later. A good personal trainer needs to have a professional approach and a professional demeanor. how you comport yourself and how you carry yourself, how you interact with people, how you communicate with people. We're talking about changing people's lives. Now, everybody's got different personalities for sure, but a lot of the nonsense that you see on the Biggest Loser shows and things like that is not really a good way to connect with people. You know, screaming at somebody in their face until they cry, not a great motivation for a vast majority of the population. So being able to conduct yourself in a professional manner, simple stuff like returning phone calls and texts and messages, being on time, being like present and connected with somebody while you're actually talking with them and working with them. These kinds of things are really important, and not everybody does that. So if you're interested in fitness as a career, especially coaching one-on-one, you're going to have to be very in tune with people and communication and being present and paying attention and those kinds of things. If not, maybe something more in the desk job field would be better. Lastly, personal trainers are really coaches about self-improvement. And it just so happens that we use exercise and nutrition as the main modalities. But the concepts of empathy and motivation and being understanding with where people are in their own personal journey, these are really, really important. If you don't care about people, if you don't give a crap about how upset Ms. Berkowitz is about, you know, what's going on with her day, you're not going to do well in this field. Because even though we do our work in the confines of a fitness facility and we use exercise and we use nutrition coaching as like the methodology, it's really about meeting people where they are. So it's a people business. You've got to have this at your core to be good at coaching anything, really, whether it's exercise or not. Does that make sense? Any thoughts about that? No thoughts. Moving on. So the day-to-day life of a personal trainer. Once again, what you see on TV, what you see on the YouTube videos, it's not really what it's like. What it really looks like on a day-to-day basis is you're going to have some long hours, especially in the beginning. You know, I've got, fortunately, after 26 years of this, I've gotten to the point in my career where I can pretty much set my own schedule and do what I want. But in the beginning, you're going to have to take whatever you can get. If somebody wants to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're there at 5 o'clock in the morning with a smile on your face. So you're going to have some long hours. You're going to start early, you're going to end late. A lot of times you've got back and forth. You know, your schedule's not full, especially in the middle of the day. Everybody wants to work out before work or after work, so a lot of times you get this big chunk of empty time in the middle of the day until you get your practice full. What we do with people is a lot more than just leading exercise sessions. You know, if you're going to teach group exercise, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. You get up in the class, you put your microphone on, you start the music, you tell everybody what to do, everybody has a great time, and you're done. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to do one-on-one personal fitness coaching or nutrition coaching or health coaching or any kind of one-on-one coaching, you're going to be dealing with a lot of people's baggage. Did I mention a lot of people's baggage? We have people's emotional stuff, their histories, traumas, life challenges that come up all the time. It's really about, coaching people is really about strategies and problem solving, right? It's a given that you understand how to put together exercise programming. It's a given that you know how to help somebody put together sensible, healthy meals. Everybody's got that. What's going to set you apart in this field is how you can come up with ways for poor Ms. Berkowitz to figure out how she's going to get her lunch prep done when she's got all, you know, this litany of things that are going on in her life. So we really end up almost becoming amateur psychologists. I'll talk about that too. Motivation and encouragement is something that you probably have instinctively. If you are trying to help somebody, how you go about doing that and leading them down the path really depends on what you're dealing with, whom you are dealing with. It's a terrible sentence, but it's English. Different people have different methods, how they like to learn, how they like to be talked to, how they get it or don't get it. So as you get into this field and you start to get a few dozen, a few hundred, a few thousand clients under your belt, you're going to really start to get a feel for how do I best communicate with this individual, right? And it varies a lot. And you probably recognize that already just in your day-to-day lives. You know, everybody's got different friends, different family members, different acquaintances, and how you communicate with people really depends, right? Our number one job is to make the client feel good. We need to make their day brighter and give them what they need in that moment. Whether that's having a great workout and you feel good physically when you walk out the door with a smile on your face, it's great. Some days it's somebody comes in and needs to lie on the stretching table and get the hamstrings loosened up while they basically sob about all the things that are going wrong in their life. That's a lot of this too. Whatever the person needs, you got to get them to a place where they feel, wow, I am really glad I came to see you today. And it looks different every day for every different person. But this is it right here, making somebody really feel good. You will have bonds professionally and personally with your clients. When you do that, you will feel like you are making a difference in people's lives. When you make their day better and you give them what they need, whatever that is. That's it right there. Underline that one. Anybody have questions or comments about some of the day-to-day stuff? It might be not what you expected. Nothing. Moving on. The personal training field can be great, and it can also be terrible and a real headache. There are pros and cons, just like there are to any field. I want to go over some of this kind of stuff. My main purpose for you guys here is to give you some insight into what it's really like to work in personal fitness. So you got an idea of what you may or may not be getting into if you choose this path. So on the pros side, if you work for yourself, you've got a flexible schedule. You set your own hours. Personal fitness training is perfect for part-time work or a side hustle. A lot of people have like a regular 9-to-5 job. They have a couple clients that they train after work for some extra money or on the weekends. And that works great. If that's how you want to go about it, fantastic. That makes everybody happy. If you, over time, develop a good reputation and build a successful practice, you can make some nice money. I must admit, it's nice to not have to worry about paying the bills and where the next mortgage payment is coming from. It's not easy, but you can do it. So there is money to be made in fitness if you do it right. We get to work in a healthy environment, both in the space and also in the culture, right? It's different than slinging drinks in a bar, in a smoky bar, right? Whole different lifestyle culture that we're talking about. So if you're working in the fitness field, generally everybody's aiming for more positivity with their health and self-care. So that's a plus in my mind. And the biggest thing, as I mentioned earlier, this is really gratifying work. When you get to serve people and help lead them and role model them and guide them to becoming better and more empowered, it is really, really gratifying work. So this is very special, and I wanted to honor that. On the downside, because there are downsides to everything, some things you may want to think about. When you're a fitness trainer, unless you are like hired as a staff person at a big box gym and you have a shift If you don't have that, you're going to have very variable and unreliable schedules. And if you're paid hourly, which most of us are, it means you're going to have a very unreliable paycheck. So be prepared for that. There's not much salary going on in fitness. It's pretty much hourly. So if you're working, you're getting paid, and if you're not, you're not. One of the things that's hard about being a personal trainer is that you always have to be on, right? No matter what kind of a day you're having, no matter who died this week, no matter how bad you're feeling or how much your wife is yelling at you or whatever, you got to show up with a smile on your face and high energy and positivity, and it's all about them 100% of the time. Which is nice to do, but if you do that for 10 hours a day, it's exhausting. Being on all the time is hard. And if you're not going to be successful in this field, because people do not want to come see somebody who's moping. People do not want to come see somebody who's rubbing their eyes and not high energy and motivating. People are not going to come back and see you if you sit there and complain about yourself and your own problems the whole time during their session. So you got to put on the on face and keep it all day. That can be hard. Speaking of being hard, the hours are tough, as I mentioned before. You're going to be up early. You're going to have some gaps in your day. You're going to work late. You're going to be working around people's schedules. You're going to be dealing with their cancellations, their requests, things like that. Especially in the beginning, when you have to pretty much take whatever you can get, you're going to be at the mercy of what your clients are asking you to do or what your boss is asking you to do. So that can be hard too. But suck it up, it gets better. I made a note here that caretaking is fatiguing. As I talked about, being on is fatiguing. Taking care of people all day is tiresome also. Anybody who's done physical therapy, occupational therapy, home health care, that kind of stuff, it can take a lot out of you, taking care of people all day. So if you know that you're the kind of person who has the patience and the love for that type of work, then good. And if you know that you're not that person, you probably want to start looking at some other options, because caretaking can be tiring. One of the things I wanted to put out for thinking too, that I noticed as a fitness trainer of 20-some years, you hear a lot of the same stuff from people, a lot of the same problems. I would say 80 or 85% of the stuff that people come to you with, as far as their lifestyle struggles or their orthopedic aches and pains or how they think they can or they cannot do certain things, it's almost all the same. So a challenge is, on one hand, that's good because you have a toolbox ready to go for these common problems. But on the other hand, it's a little bit of a challenge once you've heard the same thing literally 1,000 times to talk with Mrs. Johnson like, this is the first time you've heard this so far. She is unique and you totally understand where she's coming from. We're going to be able to do this together. That can be hard when it's kind of, same old thing. So there's something else to think about too. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about some of the pluses or some of the minuses about working in the personal training fitness field?
I have a question here.
Yes, sir.
So this caretaking that's fatiguing, have you either I don't know how long you've been with your wife, but I mean, has that taken an emotional toll on being at home or like your communication with friends and stuff like that? Like, do you?
This is a superb question.
Personal health?
His question is basically, how does your emotional exhaustion from taking care of people all day affect your relationship at home? I am married. I am fortunate to have a fantastic wife. Wait, I'm on video. I have a fantastic wife. Noted. Recorded. And so she's very supportive, which is really nice. One of the great blessings in my life. But to answer your question, she also works in the wellness field. She runs the Integrative Medicine Center at Vanderbilt. So both of us have people in our face all day, and we're taking care of people all day. So like when we get home, we don't want to take care of each other, right? We're kind of tired of that. And also, we don't necessarily want to go out and socialize because we've had people in our face all day. So for us, home is like quiet and an escape from having people around and having to do a lot of stuff for other people. So it's not really a trouble spot, but it's definitely something that changes our home dynamic. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. That's an excellent question. What else? Who's got thoughts about things? Sir?
When you first started as a personal trainer, how long did it take you to build that communication skills with your clients?
Good question. The question is, when I first started working as a personal trainer, how long did it take to start building communication skills? And the answer to that question is, I am still building them. After 26 years, I'm still learning how to talk to people, how to deal with people. It's an ongoing thing. Can you dial in that question a little bit more specifically about what you might be specifically asking about? Because to say like, how long does it take to get good at talking to people is a little bit broad. Let's dial that in.
Well, I was thinking just to build that kind of that on face, like being that person that just like that, having that high energy and just pretty much just getting used to your job,
Yeah. I think a lot of that is innate. If you're excited about what you're doing, if you're passionate about helping people, you're glad to be able to do what you're doing, you're going to be excited about it. Now, I still love what I'm doing every day, 26 years later. Now, if I were independently wealthy and ready to retire, I would probably still do this. I wouldn't do it as many hours a week as I do it, but I would still do it because I love it. So, getting excited about what you're doing and being on and being passionate about like, yeah, we can do this, isn't something that you learn. You either have that or you do not have that. Now, what you can learn is ways to talk about that or methods of helping to coach someone and show them the way, to get them to open their eyes, to explain things in a way that like puts the light bulb on. And in the beginning, you might only have one way to explain something. And if Mrs. Berkowitz is not getting it, then you're out of tools. But the more you know and the more experience you have and the more problems you solve over time, the more tools you have in your toolbox. So pretty soon, if I'm working on a spine stabilization thing with somebody and they're not getting it, I got 15 other ways I can approach that something's going to put the light bulb off for them and they're going to get it because I've been around forever and I've got a lot of different tools. So it's really this constant accumulation of stuff and experience that you can use in the future. So it's an ongoing process. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I don't think so. Hit me with one more. What else you got?
Well, in the military, we have this saying, false motivation is motivation. So just
Act as if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Act as if.
Act
Have you
as
ever
if.
had to use that?
Oh yeah. Sometimes when you are, kind of emotionally drained and exhausted. Okay, one thing I want to talk about in the future is getting emotionally barfed on by your clients. Can I say that in class?
Yes.
Okay.
I've said much worse.
Okay, good. Can I cuss in here?
Yes, you can.
I can cuss in here. Nobody's
Yep.
gonna get offended.
This is a safe zone.
Okay, super. That's good, just in case, because sometimes I got a mouth like a sailor.
Yep.
So if you go through, let's say you just spent 45 minutes with somebody just like totally barking on you. And it's hard. And it's hard to stay present and focused and connected with somebody. And then shift gears literally 1 minute later and be like, okay, here we are, we're excited, that kind of thing. So that can be an act as if that you're talking about. You can't go to your next appointment after being drained and exhausted and dunked on by your former client. You know, you just got to sort of mentally and emotionally wash your hands real fast and just start over. And that's kind of what can get tiring, as I mentioned, is some of the negatives. But you got to do it, because you remember your number one mission is to make Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so feel like they are the only person in the world right now for the next 30 minutes or 60 minutes, and it's all about them, and you've been looking forward to this all freaking day, whether you have or you have not. And you'll have that, actually, since I'm talking freely about what it's like to, you know, have a large clientele. Just like with your friends and your social circle, you've got people that you love to be around, you got people you don't love to be around, right? Every client that you have on your roster is not going to be like, woohoo, I can't wait to see so-and-so. A lot of people, you know, are great, and a lot of people you look in your book, you're like, yeah, got to get ready for that mentally. So it's a roller coaster. But that is a superb question and perspective. Thank you for that. What else? I got a light right in my face. That's why I'm doing this. The room's not that big. All right, let's move on. How are we doing time-wise?
You're doing good, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk briefly about some niches in the fitness field, right? If you're going to get into teaching fitness or teaching nutrition, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Most of what you'll probably do in the beginning is just what we call general fitness and weight loss. People who want to get in shape, people who want to lose weight, people who want to tone up, whatever the hell that means. So general fitness population is a big part of this market. There's also senior fitness, right? If you want to work with older folks, retirees, home health, that is all good. Working with athletes is another niche. People who want to work on primarily sports performance, work with high school or college or professional athletes. Youth, doing youth fitness for little kid sports. That's a niche. If you love to be around kids, you might think about that. I have fallen into mostly the corrective exercise, rehabilitative exercise, post-injury stuff. I am not a licensed physical therapist, but I do a lot of work with people who are broken and people who have a lot of physical problems. So that's a niche too. I don't do a lot of the get in shape workouts myself with my own personal clientele. I have a different population. Speaking of different populations, there are specialties in special populations. Diabetes, pre and postnatal fitness, MS, Parkinson's, other neurological disorders. People do specialties in that kind of stuff. There are lots of cancer patients, lots of different kinds of specialty niches that you can fall into in your fitness career. It's been my experience that people usually start, unless you know right out of the gate, you're like, man, I want to work with 10-year-old track athletes because that's my thing. And if you know that, then go for it. If you're not sure, you'll probably start in the general fitness population, basic consumer health, working in a gym or working in a studio for people to help lose weight, get in better shape, that kind of stuff. And then as time goes on, you will probably be drawn to and start getting led down the path of a certain specialty that I talked about before. So don't think that you have to have it all figured out in the beginning at 22 years old when you graduate, that you know exactly what you're going to do, because it's probably going to change. Health coaching and personal training are pretty similar in a lot of ways. So health coaching is a big picture about the client's overall wellness, right? Exercise is a piece of that. Health coaches will do health screening and risk assessments, talk about a lot of nutrition stuff, a lot of lifestyle habits, deal with ways to get better sleep and better sleep hygiene. What that? stress management, having family and emotional support systems, and also ways to be accountable and help to do these baby steps for habit building. So the health coach role is really looking at the client's entire wellness, and we do put exercise in that mix. As compared to the personal trainer, who will do some of that, but the primary focus from the personal trainer is really on the exercise coaching, right? The primary focus of the personal trainer is designing an exercise program, teaching the execution of said exercise program, and helping hold people accountable to that. Personal training will involve some basic risk screening up front, do some assessments and some physical testing to sort of see where people are and what they need help with, figure out what to do about those problems. That's your programming. Then you teach them how to do it. Personal training has a lot of hands-on help. Let me show you how to do that. Let me put you on a table and stretch this for you. Let me move your spine into the right shape, that kind of stuff. Health coaching is not generally very hands-on like personal training is. And then the recovery techniques, with the stretching, with the cool down, with the post-exercise nutrition, that kind of stuff. It's all more about the exercise component, although we do definitely touch on a lot of the other lifestyle issues too. If you're working with general fitness clients, here's where they're coming from. See, you and I, if you're in this room as an exercise science major, you probably work out, right? Most people in this room work out. I see a couple people who are awake enough to nod at me. Okay. So like fitness and exercise and working out is normal for us, right? For your clients, this is not normal, and it's not the most important thing in their day, right? It's something they have to squeeze in if they can, because they know they should. Your clients are going to have a lot of emotional and self-image issues, body image stuff. You're going to touch on eating disorder. You're going to see signs of eating disorders, body dysmorphia, all these fancy names for people feeling bad about themselves. While it is not within the scope of practice for the fitness trainer to deal with eating disorders or severe psychological issues around self-esteem, you cannot completely ignore and avoid these problems that people have. And they all have them. We all have them. Everybody's got some version of something, right? So you're going to get it, is what I'm saying. Be prepared for people's image problems. The client has a remarkable lack of what we would consider to be very basic and obvious knowledge. People need to be told exactly what to do, right? If you're working on a weak hip thing for yourself, you have this, because you've been working out. You know what it feels like. You got a sense of what to do. So you're like, okay, that's kind of easy. I'm going to make it a little harder. Or, ooh, that's enough. Okay, I got that. I'm sore the next day from that. We know what that's like. These people don't know what that's like. So you cannot assume that Ms. Berkowitz is going to understand that when she's doing her little hip strengthening exercise, that she's got 25 or 30 reps under her belt and it's still easy, that she needs to make it harder. She needs you to tell her that. Do this many repetitions, as if there's some magic in 20, but they need a number, so give them a number, right? He's laughing. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You coached people before, you know what I mean?
I've been on like family members.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. They don't have a good sense of like what is hard, what is easy, what's enough, what's not. So you got to tell them something until they learn on their own. Your average fitness client who comes to see you is completely stressed and overwhelmed with life. They can't manage anything. They're going to come 10 minutes late. They're going to have one brown sock and one white sock on, and they forgot their shoes, and this has been the worst day ever. So be prepared for that, because that's life, right? This is not high on their priority list. Working out regularly is normal for us, is not normal for them. So keep that in mind. The other big challenge that you will have with understanding your clients is they generally are not terribly motivated to do what you tell them to do. I put the other 166 hours. There's 168 hours in a week. If you spend 2 hours a week with a client, they got 166 hours that they're on their own, right? Your 2 hours is not going to undo that 166 hours, ever. So they got to do a little bit of something on their own. And generally, the motivation or the attention to those other 166 hours are not very good. So you need to understand that, and you need to be prepared for that as you approach how to try to make things better for the Mrs. Berkowitzes of the world. Once they are walking out the door and key in the ignition, exercise and nutrition is out of their mind because they're done with you. They're on to the next thing. That is why, this is a good point. I was talking about like how you're going to have long hours and long days and stuff like that, and you end up learning how to really connect with people. Touching base with your clients when they're not in front of you is a really good way to help them long term. You know, just send them a text message or an email. Hey, what'd you have for dinner? Right? Did you eat breakfast this morning? Did you make did you get your cardio in? Whatever it was. Just a 5-second thing to let them know, A, you're thinking about them, and B, it's a reminder like, oh yeah, I said I was going to do that. You gotta take care of it because it's not top of their mind. So I'm going to start complaining in a minute, so I hope that's okay. What you're going to need to become a personal trainer or a fitness professional, as far as education and professional development, what you're going to get from the basic certification process. So you know, if you go through some of the major certifying organizations, they do a pretty good job of teaching basic anatomy and physiology, and you may have that under your belt already from college. They teach you how to do some risk screening and assessment. They go over scope of practice and legal guidelines, so you have some ideas about where you got to draw the line between what you can and cannot do legally. How to put together exercise programs, ACSM guidelines for exercise programming design. Do you guys have that under your belts already? Have you gone through those types of things? Some?
Yeah.
Who's awake back there? Who's paying attention? No one. And then you get a couple notes, a handful of notes about special populations, like working with a pregnant person or working with somebody with osteoporosis or something like that. But there's a lot more to be learned than just what you get from the certification process. So here's my big gripe. What's missing from the certification process, this is a huge thing right here. Teaching strength training. What? That is correct. When you get certified as a personal trainer, they do not do a good job teaching you how to teach exercise. My head explodes weekly about this concept for the last 20 years, but that's still the case. The big organizations do okay with teaching the other stuff that I had on the list, but the big thing that's missing is you, as an instructor, spend 95% of your time teaching exercise on the strength training floor. You got to learn how to do lunges right. You got to learn how to teach people how to do rows and scapular stuff right. You got to know what to do when somebody's shoulder's hurting, right? I consistently see I told you I've been all over the country watching personal trainers in action, and I consistently see poor execution on basic moves, triple extension moves like lunges and step-ups. I consistently see shoulder-busting moves like tricep bench dips and upright rows and all this kind of stuff. This good strength training is not being taught. And I keep threatening that I'm going to put together my own education program for it, and I might actually just do it this year. We'll see. But anyways, that's my rant. So your takeaway here is just to make sure that, if you go through the education process of being certified as a personal trainer, there's a lot of stuff about teaching exercise that you're not being taught. So don't think you know it all. What is also missing from the certification process, there's not much talk about how to build a practice, right? The business building aspect of stuff is not really taught. It's sort of like, okay, here's a piece of paper, you're certified. Have at it, kid. Good luck. So it takes time, and it's a challenge to build a practice. They don't really teach you how to conduct yourself. Not surprising. You can't really teach that in a education certification. But there could be some coaching or some ideas, some guidelines about what you should or should not do when you're in, when you're in public. And the last thing is, as I had mentioned to you, a lot of what we end up doing is kind of being an amateur psychologist with these folks. You know, I'm not a mental health professional, but you simply cannot talk about someone's behavior without talking about how they think. There's just no way around it. So that kind of stuff is going to come up. Be ready. So there are lots and lots of different ways that you can go about breaking into the fitness field if you decide you might want to try this. One of my recommendations would be just get hired at a gym as a staff person. That way, you know, you'll get paid a little bit hourly to be there. You'll spend some time cleaning the machines and dumping the trash, but you'll also spend some time working with gym members, teaching exercise. Start to develop your teaching chops. See if you like working with people in that regard. Most gyms will hire people who can show up on time. You know, if you have a certification and you can show up on time and not be an idiot, then you're probably going to not have a problem getting hired as a staff person. If you want to do something bigger than that, as far as building a practice and a career, some of the stuff that I look for personally in people who work on my team, you've got to have a service-oriented attitude. You know, when we come to work to help people, it's all about them. Nobody cares what kind of day you're having, really, right? You gotta really approach this with the attitude of helping people. You've got to be passionate about helping people improve. That has to excite you, just like you said, my friend, who talking about the excitement about it. Having people skills, you got to be able to communicate with people. I cannot tell you how many people call me to talk about wanting a job on the Basics and Beyond Fitness team, and they can't even have a good conversation on the phone. So, like, do I want to bring this guy in for an interview if I'm getting one-word answers and, like, a lackadaisical feel from just a phone call inquiry? I don't think so. So communication skills and positive attitude are really important for me. The ability to focus on something for an hour, right? If you cannot pay attention to your client for an hour without looking at your phone every 2 minutes, that's unacceptable to me. I don't want to talk to you, right? So being able to be focused and present on what you're doing for a reasonable length of time is important. And it's important to the client too. Just as an aside, I cannot tell you how many times, probably the number one thing that people used to tell me that they would come up. I used to work in a sort of a commercial gym, and for years people would approach me to ask me to help them and start training with them, and they will tell me this. They say, I've been watching you with people for years, and you are so focused on your people. You're not looking around, you're not chit-chatting with people, you are really paying attention to your person. I heard that more than any other thing that I heard from people for years. So if you are in a gym setting and you are working as a staff person or you want to become a personal trainer, people are always watching how you conduct yourself. Whether you think you are having a session or not, or whether you think you're having an audition or not. People are watching what you do and how you do it. So conduct yourself accordingly.
Dan, we have just a couple minutes.
Okay, I'm ready to wrap it. I look for people who want to work, right? If you want to build a career, let's do it. I am not really personally, I'm not interested in having somebody who's like, oh, well, I can work on Thursday afternoon from 2 till 4 and then Mondays before noon when I go pick up my kid. It's like, that's not going to help me much, you know. So as I mentioned earlier, fitness training can be a great part-time gig. You know, if you have those kinds of time constraints, you want to fill in a few hours with part-time fitness, it's fantastic. But for my team personally, I want full-time people who are like all in. Let's do this. I got nothing else. So, okay, that is all I'm going to say. And the floor is open for any questions, comments, anything.
Over there.
One, sir.
You said it's long hours. Like, what's a typical work day? Like 9 to 5?
Sir, the 9 to 5 is not a long day, but now a lot of times, typically, you'll be up really early and start some before work appointments. 5 a.m. workout is not unheard of. Definitely 6 a.m. if you want to do that in the mornings. And then often there's more of a hole in the middle of the day, because it's hard to fill in the middle of the day. If your schedule, like between 11 and 3, for example, is often empty. It's when you do your own workout, it's when you do your own education stuff, run your errands, whatever. Then you come back for 4 till 7, 7:30, 8, depending on who's got you booked when. So it's a lengthy day, especially in the beginning. When you get to the point when you can set your own schedule, business-wise, great. But in the beginning, I will encourage you to just, if you want to do it and build a practice, take what you can get, work around people's schedules, and make that sacrifice. It's worth it. That's what I used to do. I don't work out at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore because I don't have to, but I sure used to when I started. What else? Cool. Well, thank you very much. It's been fun.
Thank you, Dan.